Without a doubt, this is the most fun I have had watching baseball in I can't even remember when, Adam. This Toronto Blue Jays team, man, top to bottom, they're just a good time to watch.
Yeah, I speaking of how long it's been, I'm seeing a lot of these. You might be seeing equivalents on Instagram or Blue Sky or whatever, but I'm getting a lot on TikTok of like it's a screenshot of the AL East standings with the Blue Jays at the top, and then some selfie of someone in a Jays outfit with the caption of like, I'm not cheering for the Blue Jays. And then you like swipe to the next picture, and it's like a picture of them as a kid and it's like he is or she is and it gets me every
Okay.
time. I'm
I
like,
love
oh
that.
man. I'm like, yeah, this is where it's getting us right now, is right in the nostalgic feels of 1993. So I'm here for it though. This is good. This
Even
is
the
great.
2015 and 16 team, I mean, we're a decade removed from it, and it gives you that nostalgic feel. All of these people getting on board again. And I mean, they're
Yeah.
doing it at the right time. We talked about this a little bit on MLB Mondays yesterday, but I mean, my goodness, dude, there's no basketball, there's no hockey, there's no football right now, and the Blue Jays are just hitting that window for the first time where they're making it their time to shine, right? Like you go back last year and we were already like, oh my God, I can't believe this team is pretty much eliminated from the playoffs and it's July. Like, what are we going to
Hmm.
do the rest of the year? Because that's the thing with us hardcore baseball fans is we're going to suffer, right? We're just going to
Yeah.
watch shit baseball. We're going to cheer anyways. We're going to delude ourselves that maybe we can dig out of it. And then you end in October in heartbreak and frustration, and you're calling for your general manager's head, and you're calling for your president's head, and you're saying, we've already given them 10 years. What can they do in year 11? Is there anything? And then you find out, you know what? Always give an 11th year, right? Like, really?
That's that's when the positive regression happens, my friend.
That is when it all comes together. Hello and welcome to the walk off, everybody. I'm Scott Belford, joined as always by the best co host in the biz, Adam Mack. This is a Monday morning mailbag on a Tuesday afternoon. We've got all sorts of interaction to get to, and I will be very upfront here. We have had one of our bigger weeks view wise, comment wise in the last at least year or so with the way the Blue Jays are playing. And so if you do not get your question or comment on, my apologies. Just try again and we'll give it another go next Tuesday. You can reach out. Obviously, if you're a Patreon member, you get the Patreon bump automatically into the mailbag. Twitter at Walk Off Podcast, Blue Sky, The Walk Off Podcast, Instagram, The Walk Off Podcast, and always combing through the YouTube comments. You, the grounds crew, are what makes this channel run. So thank you so much for tuning in and honestly tuning in so much more recently. It's very cool. Before we dive in, Baseball Town goes on Thursday. The Blue Jays finally have an off day after 16 games in a row, and we are going to celebrate it in style. JD Bunkus from the JD Bunkus podcast and Sportsnet is going to be on the panel. We've got Baseball Jen Smith, friend of the show, and Tom Henry. You might know him. He's an actor, comedian. You may have seen him in The Boys, Umbrella Academy, also super huge Blue Jays fan. Going to be a very fun panel. And then tickets for that are going to be $20 if you use the coupon code baseball. So the link for that is going to be in the description. By the way, Halifax, we're bringing a baseball town your way. We've got Blue Jays trivia on the 14th, the Monday. That's an off day for the Jays. And then as well in that All-Star break on the Wednesday, the 16th, we've got baseball town in Halifax. So the East Coast finally gets to participate in some of this. And I'm going to be headlining the Halifax Live Comedy Club the 18th, 19th of July. Check it out. On that, let's dive in. Starting with Patreon here, Adam. And let me tell you, the crew is excited. They are looking forward to the trade deadline, and there's a lot of comments, questions, ideas for that And that's kind of probably going to be the majority of the theme here for today's mailbag
Yeah, probably 3 or 4 or 5 weeks of
of
trade
this.
speculation in the
Yes.
mailbag. A lot of heavy
Well, with the
trade
Jays
stuff.
doing so well, it's really an exciting time, right? Like last year we had to watch them sell off, and this year we're like, oh boy, pulling at the collar. Who are we going to lose and what are we going to gain? It's exciting.
Well, I will be the first to admit that recently, within the last, I would say 2 weeks, we've done a mailbag, I'm sure, where you asked me about should they be buyers or how big of buyers should they
Hmm.
be? And I think I kind of gave you a pretty lame answer of like, well, yeah, of course, buyers, but also like, what can we do? Like
Hmm.
it's there isn't really a home run swing to be made. And now I feel like I'm fully on the bandwagon of like fucking swing away. Like
Yeah.
we do got to go all in. Like I just yeah, it's if not now, then when?
And that is a great question because the truth is, man, we all look back as fans, and I hope we're not alone. I hope the front office feels the same way, and this is kind of a lesson that they learned in their tenure. 2021 still feels like a year that they really should have done more at the deadline and kind of hedged
Oh, is
their
it the
bets
heartbreaker? We got eliminated on day 162. Watched from the
162, and they kind
we
of
won the game we needed to win, and then watched the Red Sox break our
yeah, come
hearts.
back for against the Nationals to
Yeah,
eliminate the Blue Jays in game 162. And
yeah,
the front office in that year kind of hedged their bets with the idea of continuing to develop and improve in 2022, and you
yeah.
just never really know when that window might shrink or
Yeah.
change or
Contract. Yeah.
need a reset or whatever it is. So I think we are going to see, or at least I hope we do, a team that is going more all in than we may have expected at the beginning of the season. Starting with a question from Brian. This is Brian Crawford. Of course, you can check out his writing. He follows and writes about the Blue Jays prospects. His stuff is always really good, and you can follow him on Twitter. Question for the mailbag. He goes, what are your thoughts on the bullpen this year compared to last year? It seems like every guy in the pen has had big moments so far in 2025, from veterans like Jeff Hoffman and Nick Sandlin to younger pitchers like Brandon Little and Braden Fisher. The guys keep coming up big time after time, which is very true. And I know
Hmm.
it's interesting because Brandon Little is a guy that they got for cash considerations from the Cubs last year. Braden Fisher is the piece they got in the Cavan Biggio to the Dodgers trade. Sort of afterthoughts that the Blue Jays saw something in and have managed to develop. And I know that we've been pretty harsh when it comes to the Blue Jays player development since this front office's tenure. And we're starting to see a little bit of their fruits of their labor from the last year. I know they've kind of readjusted their player development, and it is working. So thoughts on Brian's question. What are your thoughts, Adam? This bullpen compared to last year, and what do you like and what do you not like? What do you think could be areas that they are looking to improve?
Oh, I have a hard time remembering what I like about last year's bullpen or not liking.
I mean, last year was tough, right? Because Jordan Romano got injured in the second week of the season, and we didn't
Mm,
see him for the rest of the year. So you lose your closer right out of the gate.
yeah, it puts everybody in a position they weren't built for. Um, I don't know. Without, is it lame if I don't do a comparison to last year and I just
No, just
toot the
tell us what
horn
you like
of
about this year then. Sure.
I like Jeff Hoffman.
Yeah.
I really like him. He had a rough stretch,
Hmm.
but I feel better about Jeff Hoffman than I ever did about Romano. And that might just be a grass is always greener mentality.
Hmm.
Could be the shiny new toy. Could be that, I don't know, there's a factor in me that judges Canadian talent harder or any kind of homegrown thing harder than otherwise. Because I feel a weird, like, it's not nepotism, but it is a, like, is Romano the closer because he's the best in our bullpen, or is he the closer because he's from Markham and it's like a cool thing? Like he was
Well,
a
I
great
mean,
closer.
he was a
I'm
great
not
closer.
totally, I'm
Yeah.
just saying like this is where like I'm just psychoanalyzing my own like
You
lack of
are the
confidence in Jordan Romano.
you would be the coach that would be on your daughter's team and you would
Oh yeah,
treat her harder.
way
You wouldn't
harder.
give her
Yeah,
advantages. You're
reverse
that kind.
nepotism for
Yes,
sure.
reverse nepotism.
Yeah,
So
so
I feel that.
that's where it's like I don't know. And yeah, just bringing in a guy feels like all of the emotional connection that I had to Kevin Biggio, right? And like you've seen him since he was whatever, 11 years old and couldn't grow a mustache, right up until he was 25 and couldn't grow a mustache. Like you just it's hard to not like root for that guy to be like, "Oh, I hope this trio can be a thing." And then like it wasn't. And then he goes to another team and is just like out of baseball now, which is
Mhm.
like fine. But I think that's where like that kind of gets exposed of like, okay, we're really giving Cavan a lot of rope, right? John Schneider has a history with him through the minors and everything, right? Like they came up together. We're really giving him every opportunity he can to succeed here. And then when you trade him to the Dodgers and he's off to the Royals, it's just like, oh yeah, I know. He was just not his dad. Like he's just not good enough, right? So yeah, I don't know. Seeing Romano struggle as much as he has in Philly also kind of plays into that,
Mhm.
you know, evaluation of him of being like, and I know like he's coming back from injury, and this doesn't mean Romano's career is done, and like he can come back further removed from the injury and have a great next year. That's totally a
Mhm.
possibility. And generally speaking, I do like Romano. I love having him as a closer for the Jays. He was like a really good, great closer for the Jays.
I will say too, Adam, I do think that there's some credit to be given to this front office for revamping this bullpen because it would have been easy to run Romano back as your closer. It would have been easy to try again on Tim Mesa. It would have been easy to keep some of these mainstays from the last few years around, but they
Mm-hmm.
kind of just hit a point where they were like, you know what? We need to start fresh. We need
Yep.
to try a new approach at this Rubik's Cube that is the bullpen for the Blue Jays. And
Yeah.
they've done a very good job. You know what? Bringing back Jimmy Garcia was a very good move. He's been injured a lot of this season. And I think that when he does return, what a boon for this bullpen because they've been so good without him. They honestly have. And I'm with you, man. Jeff Hoffman has been fantastic and he's really fun to watch. And I know that he had his low point there in the season. And hopefully we don't go through that again. But if we do, we know where his highs are, right? The high water
Yeah.
mark is worth maybe dealing with the low water mark. And when it comes to Hoffman, I'm reminded of something one of our Patreon members said. Johnny Eaton compared him to Craig Kimbrell. And he was just like, when Craig was on, Kimbrell was one of the most dominant closers to pitch in baseball, period, right? Like
Yeah.
his high water mark is incredibly high. Whereas when he was off, sure, he still had his cool little look at me doing this weird bird thing with my arms, but now I suck a little. But when you can get him at his best, there is no one better. So, that's a trade off I'm prepared to do. And you cross your fingers and hope that Hoffman is in that realm, has that game face on for the playoffs, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that's almost every bullpen. That's almost every reliever.
Hoffman is the full circle piece to the Troy Tulowitzki trade from
Yes,
2015,
that's
which
right.
is just extra hilarious to
Just
me. So
bringing that
like,
that 2015 magic all around.
So can we trade Ricky Tiedemann for something big so that he can be our closer in 10 years?
I'm all for it.
Doesn't that sound great to you? Like, come
Bring
on.
Ricky back once he's developed. Let someone else
You
do
know,
the work.
you can't bring him back if you don't send him away, right? So,
By the way, yes, to everyone who's like, why is Scott sounding so much better all of a sudden? I did just realize in true walk-off fashion that my mic was not plugged in. So here we go.
lovely,
There we go.
lovely,
Caught it early, though. Caught it pretty early.
lovely.
Patreon's
I
banging their head against the wall, being like, why didn't he figure it out sooner? But that's fine.
I didn't notice a difference. So if you're wondering, why doesn't Adam ever say something? It's because I am tone deaf.
Moving on, keeping with Patreon here, he goes for the mailbag. If the Jays keep up their win-loss percentage and their run differential grows at the same rate, does the big middle finger to Pythagorean W's and L's make up for 2021? And then he's got his LOL emoji there, the crying, laughing face. I mean, yeah, I would say that it does,
So
right?
2021, we talked about that off the top of the show. That was the season that we had that great September and just missed out with the kids. This is the year after making the playoffs, the COVID year.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so the Rays won the division with 100 wins. Red Sox wild card 92 wins. Yankees wild card 92 wins. Blue Jays missed out 91 wins. And it came down to, yeah, the Red Sox and their comeback in game 162. So run differential that year. Rays plus 206, Red Sox plus 80, Yankees plus 42, Blue Jays plus 183.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
that's what we're talking about here. The expected win loss total for the Red Sox, 88 wins. They finished with 92. Yankees, 86 wins. They finished with 92. So they both overachieved in that Pythagorean calculation
Mm-hmm.
there. The Blue Jays expected win loss of 99 and only got 90. So we were 8 games below our expected win loss, and everybody else was 4 to 6 wins above. So yeah,
It makes
we're
it
doing
up.
the reverse this year.
Yeah. Baseball's a funny little sport
That's
sometimes.
why the games are played, man. That's what they say, right? Like it's you can have the best team on paper, but the game's still got to get played. So
And the Blue Jays have played a lot of tight games, and that is not necessarily a bad thing if that is a feather in your cap, right? If that's one of your strengths, is that when the game is tight and the pressure's on, and you kind of come out the other side more often than not with a W, that's not a bad thing come playoffs because things get a lot tighter once you are in a wild card or in a division series.
um,
Going to Trevor. He goes, watching this team is like watching a cartoon or video game right now. Loperfido, home run. Lucas, gone. Barger, gone even deeper. But of course, we all saw this coming, right? Doesn't seem to matter who they put in to produce. And that is one thing that is honestly blowing my mind right now is the next man up that's going on with this team is absolutely wild. As Sampson said yesterday, he's talking David Sampson here, who was on Blair and
part of the
Barker.
show.
Yeah, he goes, I have a World Series ring full of horseshoes, as in up his ass, because everything went right that year, too. Braves got hot with Soler, Duvall, Rosario, and Jock Peterson. Same kind of thing. Point being, this is often how it goes in baseball. They have the magic, and they need to seize the day. Love that sum up there, Trev. Tough to argue with a lot of that. The Blue Jays are hot. Everyone is banging on all cylinders right now, and hopefully it continues this way until the trade deadline when they can bolster this team even further.
Yeah, I was texting with my brother and nephew and dad about this and the trade deadline. My brother says teams banging on all cylinders, don't mess with it. What do you
Mm-hmm.
think of that?
Mm-hmm.
keep this band together. Don't mess with the chemistry. Like, because there is that to be said. I don't like it. I feel like
Yeah.
improve.
Yeah.
But what would you say to people that have that opinion of like things
Honestly,
are hot right now? Don't mess with it.
I I understand the mentality of it, and still come out the other side sort of against that mentality. I'm a little bit with you on this, that I think if you can go ahead and bring in someone that is going to improve the team, in the end, that's going to be a boost to the core. I understand it could be frustrating for the team, and they're all cheering for Leo Jimenez, and they think that he's going to be a big piece of this team. And you know what? He's the odd man out. They bring in somebody who has some thump, and Leo gets sent back down to Buffalo, and he's not with the team anymore. I mean, truly, these guys are professional. They know the way the business of the game works. And if you bring in somebody who is going to make the team better, I can't see it messing with the chemistry or screwing with the camaraderie that they currently have. I'm not in that clubhouse. I don't know, but look at what bringing in David Price and Troy Tulowitzki did for 2020 for 2015. And it's not all about 2015. And I know this is a very different team, very different scenario. Everything is different. It's just that's the last time the Jays went all
Yeah.
in.
Yeah.
And Ground Screw, drop your comments. Like, how do you feel about Adam's question here, right? Like, are you on the side of his brother where it's like, you know what? It's working. Don't mess with what's working, right? It's the old don't change what ain't broken. But or would you rather see them just bolster and go for it?
I mean, there's definitely room, I think no one could argue, to improve the starting rotation.
Yes.
But there's an argument to be made that the lineup is like
Not to be messed with.
where's the obvious spot to improve in the lineup? This is assuming Dalton Varsho comes back and is healthy the rest of the year, which I don't think is a stretch. Although he has missed two stints now.
Mm-hmm.
So like it could just be a nagging thing where it's just he comes back for 2 weeks and then he's gone again for a month. And the next time they might just shut him down. But short of that,
I will
like
say this,
Kurt,
Adam. I don't think that, I mean, we don't need a third baseman anymore. Like the way
so
Addison Barger and Ernie Clement are playing.
so this is my point is that at catcher, unless the Mariners are willing to part ways with Cal Raleigh,
Yeah.
you're set at catcher, right?
Yeah.
You've got Kirk's the best, second best catcher in the American League. And then Heineman has been incredible in
Yeah.
limited roles. So you can't even say, oh, but there's a backup catcher out there we can improve with. Nope. That's
Not the
maybe
case.
on paper, maybe on resume, but what Heineman has been doing this year speaks for itself. There's no improvement there. First base, there's a $500 million worth of reasons to not do anything there. Bo's at short, like unless you do something crazy in including a Bo trade, like one of those ones where you sell and buy at the
And I
deadline.
can't see them
Bo,
doing that now.
I
Not
don't
with where
think
they're
so
at.
either. And then Jimenez at second base is like, okay, elite defense. He's not coming out of the lineup, as
Mm-hmm.
long as he's healthy. He can bat 185 and he's staying in the lineup. And then the outfield, yeah, with like Springer, Varsho, and like maybe you could have because we do have a deep outfield, right? Like we've got five of the best outfield options going, right?
Mm-hmm.
But we also don't really have any top tier outfielders. So like you could add a Nathan Lucas upgrade,
Yeah.
which is hard to say because like he has not been bad.
No, at all. In fact, he's been an above average hitter that they've been able to plug into the leadoff spot and him do quite well.
So this isn't a shot at Nathan Lucas. It is just that, yeah, you could go from above average to an all-star. Like
Yes.
that's the kind of step that you could take is adding an all-star outfielder to this lineup. And then yeah, shortstop with Bo and third base, you go Ernie and Barger as a hybrid combo there. And
Hmm.
yeah, like I'm not even a huge Ernie guy still. Like I know that the numbers are incredible and whatever. And the
Lefty masher.
personality, I like him. But yeah, I'm just not totally sold on Barger. And people push back that the defensive numbers are incredible and he's playing better than Matt Chapman defensively. I don't know. I'm still not sold on Ernie, and I would fucking love to be. I
Yeah,
would love to be. So,
that's fair.
but yeah,
I'm pretty sold
the
on him,
the
but
the
that's
num
fair.
the numbers on Ernie, you called him a lefty masher, and I think I texted you this yesterday after seeing the splits they popped up on the screen. But it's like he's unstoppable versus lefties, and he's unstartable versus righties.
Hmm.
Like you go from a OPS over 1,000 against lefties to an OPS under five, or not under 500, but like around five something against righties. That's bad. I think
Hmm.
league average OPS is 715.
Hmm.
Like you get in the 600s, and that's when you're talking about sending a guy down to AAA, and he's at five something. So I just mean like he is very bad offensively against right-handed pitchers. Now, seems like he's going to win a Gold Glove this year.
Yeah, it does.
For
And
the utility position, that newly added utility
yeah.
position.
And I would also
Like,
say, Adam, that with how well Nathan Lucas has done against righties, it is a really intriguing way of looking after the leadoff spot, right? Where you can just kind of keep flipping Clement and Lucas back and forth depending on the handedness of the pitcher and have a pretty solid top five in the order, right?
yeah.
So the Blue Jays are kind of winning through roster flexibility in a lot of cases. John Schneider has a bunch of tools in his tool belt that he didn't have in 2024.
Um, Split wise, just we'll just add these numbers since we talked about
Yes.
Nathan Lucas and Ernie Clement platoon splits. So Nathan Lucas, OPS versus lefties, 437 versus righties, 793. So the same thing in reverse. It goes from you can't play him against lefties to he hits well above average. That's an OPS plus against righties of 122. So like
Yeah. Beautiful.
borderline all-star numbers, just if you're just looking at, not runaway all-star, but like
No.
122 is a
Yeah.
legit, really good season
Just a
offensively versus
smidge
righties.
under 800. Like 800's exceptional, and he
Yeah.
is like 793. He's right
Yeah.
there.
And then versus lefties, OPS plus of 32.
Yeah, we
So
don't talk
horrific.
about
You know,
lefties.
But like you said, you platoon him with Ernie Clement, and you go, okay, well, the 28% of time a lefty's on the mound, you get Ernie Clement, who's got an OPS of 1,084. That's an OPS plus of 210. And then versus righties, they come back down to normal. So an
We don't
OPS
talk about righties when we're talking
of
Ernie
five
Clement.
of 564. So that's an OPS plus of 59. So,
Right.
but as long as you've got those guys and have the Addison Barger of it all,
Yeah.
who's also got enough flexibility where you go, okay, Ernie's at third, Barger's moving into left field or right field or what, like the outfield can make their shifts. Let's get Lucas out of the lineup today and then reverse it when the lefty's on the mound
Hmm.
or vice versa or whatever, and have Barger come in and play a competent third base. But it is a real triangle here of like kind of everybody is dependent on that other piece or else it
Hmm.
doesn't work.
Yeah.
Right. So, and it's it's good. They're getting enough playing time to stay hot, which is
Kudos
somehow
to
working
John
out.
Schneider, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it has been a merry-go-round and a shuffle the
Who
deck
was
kind of lineup card, and
who
he's
was
doing a
our
good job.
second base situation? Because we had the Espinal, Biggio, and then there was a third person that year. but they were all sharing second baseman
Was that
only,
Davis
basically.
Schneider? Was that
It might have
2023?
been Davis
Yeah.
Schneider. It was the year after Espinal's All-Star season, and Kevin Biggio was kind of on his last legs.
Mm-hmm.
But that you kind of got in a situation where you had three guys sharing one spot, and I think
None of them.
the plan was just like, well, we'll go with the hot hand, but they were only playing twice a week, so they weren't getting enough. Like nobody became the hot hand, so it
Yeah.
was just a hole the whole time. Whereas this with Barger and Lucas and whatever, you've got at least the three of them are sharing two positions. So it's, 4 to 5 times a week. I don't know. It's interesting to see how this whole season is playing out because I don't like to usually hang my hat on we got a lot of depth,
Mm-hmm.
but we got a lot of depth
We
this year.
we really do have a lot of depth,
So,
more than I had expected, for sure.
man, if Vladdy could start fucking hitting for power,
Oh, buddy, if Bo Bichette gets hot, like, look out.
yeah.
Moving on here. This is from Let's Get Gaming. He was talking about, I told my story about how I'm doing the driving test where I get
Mhm.
in a simulator
Mhm.
and then I get in a simulator again when I'm baked, get high,
Yeah,
and this is for science, everybody. But
for science.
for science. So he goes, fucking stoner, LOL. In all seriousness, great show as always, gents. CP24 is extremely depressing. I avoid the news like the plague. I was just talking about how I was on CP24 and the uh, breaking
Chiron
news
had
at the
some,
bottom
yeah.
was something about woman getting dragged into bushes and assaulted in High Park. And I'm just like, man, can you put that up after my face is off this screen? So there you go. Thanks for reaching out. Let's Get Gaming and appreciate the patronage. This one is from Josh, Mustard Tiger, for those of you in our Discord. He goes, how would you feel about Trey Savage and Arelvis Martinez for Joe Ryan from the Twins? Feels like Barrios all over again, and I'm hooked on that idea. So, Joe Ryan is the ace of the Minnesota Twins, and he is the best pitcher on that Minnesota team. He has 3 years of control still on his contract, and he would literally make this starting rotation so formidable. I love this idea personally. I am well aware of what a huge hit losing Trey Savage is, and I know that there's a lot of prospect fans out there who hate this idea. But I will say getting a top of the rotation guy is incredibly difficult. And if that is an option to you, I think the front office should jump at it, even if it does cost you the number two prospect in the system. Adam, I know you've got Joe Ryan's numbers up here. Before we dive into them, what is your thought on that sort of prospect capital being used to bring in an ace?
Whether it's Joe Ryan or any other ace guy, I'd even say a number one,
Yeah.
right? Because not all number ones are aces.
Hmm.
We've had this argument played out over the years. But a number one that just makes everybody else better.
Hmm.
Um, and getting rid of a guy like Savage for, let's just say, an ace. I mean, I am so all for it because all you're doing is you're hoping that Trey Savage turns out to be the ace you're getting.
Truly.
So, first of all, will he ever become that ace? Statistically, probably not. Right? You ever heard of a guy named Nate Pearson? Okay, right, rest my case. Um, Second of all, even if he beats the odds, and I'm not saying it's like an absolute lottery ticket, like he's your top prospect or
Yeah.
whatever, right? But like it's if you had to toss a coin 50-50, it's still probably less likely, like less than 50% that a guy like that works out. Throw whatever percentage you want, 10%, 40%, whatever. Probably not going to turn into a top of the rotation guy. Hopefully he is, whatever. That being said, even if he does, will the timing work out by the time he gets here, right? How old's Trey Savage?
23.
21? 23? 5 years from now? what's our playoff window look like? You know what I
No,
mean?
it's a very good point, and I agree
So
100%. And when you
if you
look at
could
a
if you can
guy,
flip a prospect into what you hope that prospect becomes, and he becomes that prospect or becomes the payout of it when it lines out timeline as good as you ever could have hoped. Because like you can just flash forward, like here's the crystal ball of it all. You go, man, let's say we don't trade Savage
Mhm.
this year, right? And we make the playoffs, but we don't go to the World Series, we don't win it, whatever, right? And then 5 years from now, Trey Savage absolutely pans out. It's a Cy Young, and the Jays win 87 games and miss the playoffs. And you go, man, I wish we had this kind of production 5 years ago and we could have
Mhm.
used it. Like this is the opportunity to make that happen, is how I look at it, right? Like,
And Adam, let's talk
so.
some intangibles here too, because if you look at how difficult it is to get a top of the rotation guy in free agency, it's incredibly difficult. The Blue Jays
Mhm,
went hard after Corbin Burns and lost out to Arizona despite offering more money. It is not just a big bag of cash. And when reading Keegan Matheson's book, The Franchise, he really dove into the fact that players do not want to come to Toronto. Once they get here, they
mhm,
love it. They want to stay. They're prepared to sign extensions and make a life for themselves here in the big smoke. But to get them to cross the border is a much trickier endeavor. So if you can
mhm,
trade for a guy with 3 years of control, number one, you're saving big money because any guy you get in free agency is going to cost you huge. Number two, that
mhm.
gives you runway to allow him to fall in love with Toronto. Number three, the big talk right now around the Blue Jays clubhouse is how much fun it is. Of course it is. Winning is a ton of fun. I mean, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. had a interview last night where he literally was like, my head springs off the pillow and I can't wait to get to the ballpark to hang out with my teammates. You love that. That's what it's all about, right? And it's what builds a winning culture. So you bring in a Joe Ryan, you get him to fall in love with it too. And then that bag of money is a little bit more enticing come next summer when they start to discuss an extension or whatever it may be, right? So,
Yeah,
yeah, I think that to get something really good, you need to give something really good up. Is it going to hurt to give up the number two and the number five prospect in the system? Yes, it is.
yeah.
Do you make that move 100% of the time? Personally, I do. Grounds crew, drop your comments below. Do you like the idea of giving up some prospect capital? And I'm not talking, you know, picking around the edges. Here's Jake Bloss and
Yeah, we're
CJ
talking
Bennett. We're talking
Tiedemann and
we're
Elvis
talking
and
big time guys here.
Savage. Yeah.
Namala, whatever it may be. All right. So drop your comments and we'll circle back to this. Thanks, Josh, for the comment. Going to Metal Manic. He says, my hometown is Yarmouth, currently Ottawa. So I was just mentioning that I'm on tour in Nova Scotia throughout most of July and that I have a show in Yarmouth on the 12th. So Saturday. Saturday? Yeah, Saturday. Holy crap. Time I'm freaking leaving for the East Coast in a few days here. All right, Scott, get it together. Yeah. He goes, my hometown is Yarmouth, currently Ottawa. I'm shocked you'd ever dip your toe in that town. I actually love Yarmouth. It's a pretty cool town if you haven't been. It's all lobster fisheries and fishermen, but 3 hours from Halifax, and it's on the water. It's like as far as you can go in Nova Scotia, and then there's nothing else pretty much.
Isn't all of Nova Scotia on the water?
A lot of Nova Scotia is on the water.
Okay.
Not the valley, not the valley, not where you get the
Okay.
wine, but yeah.
All right. All right.
Then he goes, fun fact, you'll see the Yarmouth Lighthouse from most vantage points in the town. It's the location where the movie The Lighthouse, starring William Dafoe and that guy from Twilight, was filmed. Little Yarmouth.
Batman?
No, Batman? No, not Batman.
Not
Yes,
okay.
William Dafoe, was he in Batman?
Spider-Man.
Spider-Man, the Green Goblin. Good one. All
So
right.
not the main guy from not is it Hayden Christensen? No, that's Darth Vader.
Adam, The waters, stop muddying them, my friend.
Robert Pattinson.
Okay,
We
hey.
got there. I don't have Alzheimer's. We did the Alzheimer's test. I got it. I figured out the name.
You
Okay.
figured it out. All right.
Um, okay, so he's not the one in the lighthouse. No,
No,
he's the one in the
he
lighthouse.
is the one in the lighthouse. Yes.
So Batman. So yes, Batman.
Spider-Man.
Is he? No.
Oh, yes. The
Robert
Twilight guy.
Pattinson is Batman.
William Dafoe is Spider-Man. Well, he's not Spider-Man,
Well,
but he's in
correct.
Spider-Man. Okay.
All right.
We
There you
are
go.
check out our
This is why people
check out
tune
our
in,
movie
Scott.
podcast, everybody, where this is
People
basically the
grind
crux
through the
of it.
baseball to get to the movie content.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right. Okay, last Patreon comes from Deb, bringer of dingers. Deb's actually in Toronto. She's going to be coming to Baseball Town, which is this Thursday, the Blue Jays off day. You can too. Get your tickets right now. The coupon code baseball to save yourselves $5 and make the tickets $20. Okay, she goes, nickname suggestion for the A's, the Strays.
I really
Pretty
like
good,
that.
Deb. I like that, right?
I really like that.
The homeless athletics, the Strays. All right. Keeping things moving along. This one is from friend of the show, Chris Keeping. A shout out to the kiddos he's with there, Brooklyn and Bray. Hello to you too. He goes, mailbag question: is Barger the next Batista? Both have great arms, both play right field and third base. What do you think, Adam? Addison Barger getting some Jose Batista comparisons is actually quite a compliment to the man who is both getting plenty of time at the hot corner and in right field. We watched him gun down Mike Trout at the home plate from right field just the other day. He's got a cannon from the hot corner. Vladdy rarely has to do those stretching splits where he catches one on a bounce or two when it's Barger at the hot corner.
Well, according to his baseball savant page, shout out Gage for pointing this out to me yesterday. Arm strength in the 100th percentile in Major League Baseball.
Wow.
A lot of red on his page, anyways.
Yeah.
But yeah, arm strength is
When
nothing
when
short of
when
elite.
they judge your arm strength and they're like, it is the strongest it could possibly be. Not bad.
That's all right.
Yeah, we'll take it.
Hey, you know what? This is my renewed calls for a tweak to the All-Star weekend where beyond the home run derby, we add a full-on skills competition. I want to see NHL All-Star weekend style. I don't care for the gimmicky events. The ones where they're doing like fancy deeks and up and unders and whatever. I'm not for that. That's whatever. That's for the kids. That's good. That's fine. As I'm not saying don't do it, but specifically like give me that dead speed. I want to know who the fastest skater in the NHL is. I want to know who the fastest guy to first is. I want to see our outfielders lining up at the foul pole and throwing home. And let's get our radar guns out and let's have that be a fun event where we're showcasing the arm strength and the athleticism the way we do at the home run derby.
And you've been on this for years. This is not a new Adam Mack idea. And I agree with you. I think
and with Addison Barger in the 100th percentile, now more than ever, let's
see it.
Let's get these guys taking two steps and just throwing numbers that would make pitchers' heads spin.
You know? And I think it's something that we don't see enough of as baseball fans. I know that there's, and I talk about this every time you bring this up, but there's an old video of Jackie Bradley Jr. from behind home plate just goofing around and then elbowing his teammate and being like, "Watch this. You think I can throw it over the center field wall?" And the guy's like, "No." Like, it was so funny to watch. Just like, "No, you can't." And he just freaking lines up and just wails it. And literally clears the wall, and everyone around him was just like jumping up and down and like, holy shit, like, wow. So love that.
Be fun.
All right. This is from Brian. He goes, I got a discussion for you guys on the walk-off. The Jays are on pace for the Jays are on pace to have 93 wins, tying the team all-time record. A 100-win season is 61% win rate. The Jays are at 57%. The Dodgers and Tigers are on pace for 100-win seasons. Can these Jays break the team record and maybe even break the 100 win mark for the first time ever? So I will answer and then I'll throw it to you, Adam. I think that
Okay.
they do have it in them to set an all time high. I think they can break that 93 win mark. I do not think that they'll break the 100 win mark. And the reason is the AL East is too tight. Take a look at the teams in the AL East and where they're all at for wins and losses and realize that the Jays are not in the AL Central and don't get to play some of these lowlier teams more times. And that even though the Baltimore Orioles are 9 games under 500 right now, they are still a much better team than the White Sox, than I would say even the Twins and the Royals, and that despite the fact that their win loss record is different, they're in a much harder division. So I would say yes, the Jays break 93 wins. No, they don't hit 100. Adam, thoughts?
I will say we do break 100. I will say we
Ooh.
do. I'll say this. The Blue Jays since May 7th, so a little over 2 months now, uh, are 37-18. That's a 672 win percentage.
Ooh.
And
Spicy.
that puts them on pace for 109 wins.
Hey,
Now, you do have to factor in the slow start we had. We were
yes.
16-20 up until May 7th. Um, so even if we kept this pace up, 100 wins is ambitious, man.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, I think this team is firing on all cylinders. The run differential, I mean, gets pointed to a lot, but also you go back to May 7th, and our run differential was like minus whatever it was, minus 35.
Mm-hmm.
So we're actually like plus 60 in the last 2 months. So it is a lot better than.
By the way, and I know we mentioned this yesterday on MLB Mondays, and we're well aware that this isn't how it works. You can't just take the 5 worst weeks of the season and eliminate it for a team. However, I will reiterate what we did yesterday, which is if you are going to take some time to find yourself as a team, the beginning of the season is normally when that happens. And you know
Yeah.
what? I'm not discounting April. However, I feel a lot better about this team right now than I would if we were basically doing what the Yankees did, which was complete domination in April and May and then hit a wall and become the worst team in the division. And despite being still in the thick of things, you're really trying to find yourself as a team mid-season. So I far prefer this way, right? I far prefer what the
Yeah.
Jays have done. And even though I'm not discounting April, and I know that that's not how statistics work, I am far, um, I feel better about it going this way, right? I feel better about a slow start and them finding it than big struggles mid-season. Drop your comments, everybody. Grounds crew, let us know what you think on any of these questions or comments.
If this team didn't have Max Scherzer and he was our David Price guy that we acquired this trade deadline, you feel pretty good about that, right?
Sure would.
That's basically what we're doing.
Yeah.
By getting him back, like by
Mm-hmm.
adding him to this team, we've gotten basically nothing out of him. What, 3 starts?
Mm-hmm.
4 starts out of Max Scherzer so far? Limited pitch count, and even when he is back, like if we can just slowly ramp him up, and again, this is another reason why I think adding another starting pitcher would be so valuable. It is an old rotation. Nobody's young on this.
Yes.
What's the name of our fifth starter right now? Is it Lauer?
Yeah. Eric Lauer.
Who's done awesome.
Yeah. He's been
And
amazing.
I'm not even saying he loses his job. Like if we went out and got, I was thinking Joey Gallo, but no, what's his name? Joe Ryan.
Yes.
Joey Gallo is a pitcher that doesn't pitch in Major League Baseball. I love, which is hilarious to me. Did he ever end up turning in anything, Joey Gallo? I
I mean,
remember he said he was converting to a pitcher,
I
but did
think he's
he?
still trying to convert to a
Okay,
pitcher. Yeah.
he's just throwing bullpen sessions with a coach
Radar
right now.
gun and yeah.
Yeah, throwing balls against a mattress in the basement. Look out. Okay, if we go and get Joe Ryan and he's our ace, I say we just do 6-man rotation.
It
More
is.
rest days for everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody's old. Like
And
Max Scherzer would
honestly,
for sure benefit from it.
everybody pitches better on extra rest in this rotation, with the exception of Jose Barrios. So it's not a bad idea. And I don't know if you want to do it for an extended period of time, but do you want to do it for August? Maybe, right? And then maybe you move Lauer as into the bullpen as a long man or whatever you want to do it.
Yeah.
Maybe Lauer and
And
Scherzer
Scherzer
become
piggyback
a
7 innings
piggyback.
together.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
So there's options out there if they go out and get another pitcher. Going to Janice on Instagram. That's the Walk Off Podcast. By the way, our Instagram busier than ever. Been working hard to fill it full of content. So if you are a Buffalo Bisons fan, definitely check it out. We've been talking with some of the guys down in Buffalo. Lots of content there surrounding that. Janice goes, "Hey guys, all this talk of John Schneider winning Manager of the Year. Do you think he has a real shot? Last place to us having talks of the best record in team history. I'm in disbelief." Um, Listen, I'm going to say right now, the best teams in Major League Baseball, the fan base is going to shit talk their manager as much as the worst teams in baseball will shit talk their manager. Lightning rod for every negative comment is normally the guy in the bench, on the bench for a ball team. But John Schneider has done a very good job of mixing and matching, platooning players, and finding playing time for everyone to keep these guys hot. Yeah, if the Blue Jays win this division, I think John Schneider literally does win Manager of the Year. Adam, what is your thoughts on Big John?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't, there's no other obvious choices for any other nominees right now either.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So
no one's
that does
running away with
feel
it. Exactly.
no, like there isn't a massive turnaround, like because it does go to massive turnaround teams, and the Jays
Mhm.
would qualify for that, even though we've been underachievers for so long. So it's not exactly the same as taking the 28 win Rockies and making them a playoff team. Like, but yeah, I think John, as it stands right now, is on track to be Manager of the Year. I
Baseball's
mean,
such a funny sport because in April we were talking about how this is the end of the rope for Big John and Ross Atkins, and that they're probably a package deal, and that both of them are probably gone at the end of the season if this team doesn't become a winning franchise. And here we are heading into the All-Star break shortly, and they lead the AL East, and we're talking John Schneider Manager of the Year. So
well,
impressive
I'll tell
stuff.
you, there's still a roadmap to fracture that if Atkins doesn't add at the deadline,
Hmm. And they fall out of it.
or they still make the playoffs but are quickly eliminated.
Yeah.
I think Atkins has to go. Like if he can't get us to the promised land,
Hmm.
deep playoff run this year,
Hmm.
especially with where we're at. Like I think you could have said one playoff win saves his job in April. Like, got to
Yeah.
get to the playoffs, got to have a competitive series. Even if we lose, he could stick around because you say, okay, that's something to build on. But where we're at, July 8th, that's not good enough anymore. Like, we have overachieved to this point in the season, so it's not enough to coast.
Hmm.
And if he doesn't get it done at the trade deadline, that is a dereliction of duty. He It's unacceptable. So there's still a path if he's not able to get trades done where John Schneider is Manager of the Year and Ross Atkins is fired. I'm not rooting for that, but I think that is the path to that happening.
All
And
right.
I think that's more reason why we do have to go all in. Why Ross Atkins has to recognize that like there's no room to coast here.
It's time to push some chips in. It
Yeah.
absolutely is. Going to Blue Sky here. This is John. He was listening to our Ernie Clement versus J Ram talk. And he goes, if you want to understand why Ernie is close to as valuable as J Ram, you have to look at the defensive metrics. Earn Dog has 12 outs above average compared to three. B War looks at defensive runs saved, and Ernie is first in the American League for all third base this year. He's legitimately playing above Matt Chapman's career average. He's great. And I agree. Ernie Clement is great. And when I say that I would prefer Jose Ramirez, that is not slander on Ernie, by the way. All right. Like, I really have been blown away with what Earn Dog has done. Ernesto has been a savior, one of the half a dozen on this team that is the reason why the Blue Jays are where they're at right now in 2025. He is versatile. He plays all over the diamond. He is a lefty masher, like we said. But Jose Ramirez is a Hall of Fame third baseman. He's incredible. So when we were talking Jose Ramirez and we were a little bit surprised that they are so close in WAR, it was not slanderous on Ernie. It was just more gushing on Jose Ramirez for what he has done in his career and what he's doing again this season.
War's broken, defensive metrics are broken. I don't know. UZR and outs above average and all that stuff. You're just you're never going to twist my arm hard enough to get me to say Ernie Clement is a better defensive third baseman than Matt Chapman. I'm never going to say that. I don't care what the numbers are. I've never once looked at Ernie playing third base and been like, fuck yeah. Thank God we got this guy in here. And that's a me problem. I'll admit that.
Part of it is how good he is at playing third base. He never looks like he is struggling to get there or turn the play.
So that's an Ernie problem. You're right. This
Yeah.
is on Ernie.
Show a little flash, Ernesto.
Come on, buddy.
Convince
Die for
us.
something. You know?
No, honestly, very glad Ernie Clement is a Toronto Blue Jay,
Me
and
too.
he has been excellent. Going to Jeff in Toronto on Blue Sky. He goes, Joe Adele would be a good trade target. DeGrom, Naylor, and any fifth inning guy would do too. I mean, yeah, I would be all for a Jacob DeGrom, Josh Naylor, and an eighth inning reliever at the deadline. I think that would be best case scenario. I'd be very excited with that. A guy with thump, a top end of the rotation starter, and another high leverage reliever. Yes, please. So let's go over these three that he mentioned by name, and then we'll move into the YouTube comments and wrap things up here. Let's start with Joe Adele. Of course, we just watched him in the middle of the meat, if you will, of the Angels order with Taylor Ward, another interesting trade option out there, and Mike Trout. So Joe Adele hitting fifth with the Angels. What's he look like right now? He's been hot.
Joe Adele this season, he is 26 years old, 245 batting average, 494 slug, an OPS of 817, so exceptional OPS, OPS plus 124, well above average. We were talking Nathan Lucas versus righties earlier, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Joe Adele is, I mean, statistically slightly better than that against lefties and righties combined.
Yeah.
So for whatever that's worth, yeah, good outfield option.
And he would lead this team in home runs, correct?
He has 19 home runs, so yes, some much needed pop in the bat. 3 years left of control, including this year. So he's in his first year of ARB, getting 2.1 salary this year.
Which
so,
means
yeah, I
he
mean,
might
like,
not be a guy the Angels would want to give up on.
you really have to spend to pry him away. He is their first round draft pick from 2017. So this is a guy that they've liked all along. he is represented by the Boris Corp.
Hmm.
So factor that in however you like. Maybe that's reason the Angels do want to part ways with him. Maybe they're like, we don't want to go through the Boris Corp negotiation, the
Yeah.
headaches, like all the bullshit Boston's going through with Bregman right now,
Hmm.
right? So I don't know. Joe Adell, yeah, great. Would be an upgrade for this team for sure.
Now let's go to Josh Naylor, who's more of a pure rental. His contract is up at the end of the year. And that was one of the reasons why the Guardians moved him in the offseason and decided to go with 38-year-old Carlos Santana at the first base instead.
So yeah, he is final year before free agency, getting 10.9 this year from the Diamondbacks. Also a first round pick, 12th overall in 2015. Um, 11 home runs, a 300 batting average, OPS 828, good for an OPS plus of 129.
The trick
I don't know.
with Naylor is where do you play him? He is a first
Yeah.
baseman, so you would be in this first base DH thing where we're seeing Springer take a lot of DH at bats, and we're also waiting on Anthony Santander. And depending on where he is in his health, I mean, if you're trying to fit Naylor, Springer, Tony Taters, and maybe even a little bit of Vladdy in the DH spot, that's a lot of juggling without a lot of positional options. So,
Yeah, and a quick glance at his baseball reference page does list him as a first baseman and outfielder. But
mhm,
practically speaking, he's not an outfielder anymore.
mhm.
Uh, hasn't played in the outfield at all this season. Just one game in right field in 2023 was the last. So he didn't play outfield at all last year
Yeah.
either. Like five the year before. When he came up with the Padres in 2019, he played outfield a lot. And then, I
This
mean,
isn't
with
slander on his body type, but he was thinner in 2019 when he was getting those reps in right field.
hey, it happens to the best of us.
Yes.
Okay.
We're
Um,
proof of that, buddy.
yes, you've really put on some weight there, Scott. I've been meaning to talk to you as a friend. No, Josh Naylor, yeah, it's pure rental, but yeah, where do you play him at first base? DH? I don't know. Springer, Vladdy, feel like we got those locked up.
Mhm.
I don't know.
We don't need to dive too deep into the Jacob DeGrom of it all. We've done this before. Obviously, owed a lot of money still. The Rangers are a fringe team currently. Would they be interested in moving some of that? Possibly, but also unlikely. We are seeing that Jacob DeGrom at 36 years old is still dominant when healthy. He has been absolutely incredible. He would be a perfect fit at the top of this rotation. Do the Blue Jays have it in them to want to take on that kind of money? Do they have it in them to trade the prospect capital to get him? Would the Rangers be into it? All of these are big question marks. I don't know.
Great questions. Further added the complication, he does have a full no trade clause as well.
Yep. So he can decide.
So he can decide. But yeah, I can't see the Rangers moving on from him. They did give him 5 years, 185 million.
And
And
then
then the
sat through
first,
his last Tommy John.
right. So he 30 innings pitched in 2023, 11 innings pitched last season. Um, the numbers were fine when he pitched, but obviously very limited action. Now he seems to finally be healthy and giving them the volume that they thought they were getting. With 3 years left on that deal, I don't know why you'd go, well, we sat through the worst of it. Now that he's finally giving us what we wanted, now let's get out on this. And because they're definitely underperforming, but that's a
Mm-hmm.
team that spent a lot of money in the last couple of years, buying every shortstop they could find. They're only 3 games under 500. This feels like a team that may, if they do a sell off of the trade deadline, it is not a full rebuild. They have too
Yeah.
much money invested in the short to medium
And
term
they're only
to be
one
doing a
year off
full
of a World
rebuild.
Series.
Yeah. So
All right. Going to YouTube. Let's start with eShep. So to start with, Adam and I very aware we make mistakes. All right. Sometimes when it comes to the ins and outs of how contracts work, the CBA, sometimes it's just we're in over our heads a little bit. And that is where you, the grounds crew, comes through and sets us straight. And we always really appreciate it. eShep is making a correction here. He says you guys got it backwards. Reynolds will not renegotiate because we were talking about Brian Reynolds and his no trade. He says he will simply have that option picked up 6 years in advance. So he's already on pace to having it denied otherwise. So there Brian Reynolds contract is a 6-year contract. It's technically a 5-year with a team option. So when he gave his no trade teams, they were the 6 best teams at the time and 6 teams who had shown interest in him when he signed this contract. So that option, which I think is for 24 million, 23 million. Anyways, Pittsburgh's going to just say we're not picking that option up because it's a club option. So the reason that he is holding firm on these 6 teams that are all contending teams, off the top of my head, I'm pretty sure it's both New York teams, the Dodgers, the Padres, the Blue Jays, and one other team. So
it was the Giants.
The Giants, good one. It absolutely is. So again, he goes, you guys are backwards. Reynolds will not renegotiate. He simply will have that option picked up 6 years in advance. He's already on pace to having it denied otherwise. Those teams are the most likely to acquire him, not where he doesn't want to play. Now, he can demand that the team who wants him most pay him more, which makes sense. Because Adam and I were like, he just signed this deal. How is he able to demand that he gets a renegotiated contract? But like eShep explained, it's not that the contract is renegotiated or extended. It's that he has the ability to make whatever team would pick him up, grab his player or his club option in advance. So I don't know if I just made that about as muddy as all around possible, but
No, it's all still just hypotheticals and opinions. So
yeah,
about a player who's not even connected to the Blue Jays. So it makes me want to blow my brains out talking about Brian Reynolds. Just in general, this
yeah,
isn't a shot at you or me or eShep. This is just
yeah.
Brian
Well,
Reynolds is a bum.
that's what
And
happened on MLB Mondays as we bring up things from around MLB. So that was a comment on yesterday's MLB Mondays that we put out to the public. Back to YouTube. This is from Eric the Mad Viking. He goes, "Remember when we lost to the Rays 13-0? Since then, the Jays are 27-11 with a run differential of plus 37. So over that span, Pythagorean is 23-11. If you believe in that stat, I'm a bit dubious of expected stats. Give me reality." I like that.
well, it's 115 win pace, so
It's a pretty darn good pace.
it's good pace.
It's a pretty darn good pace. All right. Final question of the mailbag. Honestly, thank you so much to all of you. We really appreciate all your interaction throughout the week. You can always reach out on Twitter at Walk Off Podcast, Instagram, The Walk Off Podcast, Blue Sky, The Walk Off Podcast. You can become a Patreon member. You get MLB Mondays bonus content, which we released to the public yesterday if you wanted to check it out and see what it's all about. You get instant access to all of our interviews and of course the mailbag bump, getting your Patreon comments and questions in automatically. This is from YouTube. It's from Time and Space 99. He goes, "Whatever the issue is with Santander, how was it missed?" Okay, sorry. "Whatever the issue is with Santander, how has it been missed in the physical? How do you sign a guy to a 5-year contract for so much money and miss some major shoulder issue lurking under the surface? Um, Probably wasn't detectable, right, Adam? Like,
I
would
mean, either that or it was not that.
fan pressure? A little, like,
Well, I mean, Trevor Hoffman failed two physicals, and then the Jays signed him.
yeah.
Right? Like I think it could just be as simple as that. I think we could just be overthinking it here. Be like, okay, yeah, there's some shoulder like the MRI shows some whatever. Okay, well, he just hit 40 home runs and missed 0 games last season. So it is what it is. Hopefully it's
Yeah.
not that bad. Hopefully he can play through it like he did last year. Like you don't know what the recovery time is for any injury.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know.
It was
It
also a huge area of need. They felt like they desperately needed a guy who
yeah,
could hit
a lot of
home runs,
factors.
which is hilarious because he contributed very little when he was in the lineup and has been out of it for coming up on 2 months now. So, um, shockingly enough, they didn't need a
Yeah.
thumper, but who would have known? I know we sure didn't. We were like, give us a thumper. We need dingers, but baseball, baby. It's a funny
Baseball,
game.
baby. Yeah.
And on that, we will leave you. Remember, Baseball
Oh,
Town. Oh,
can
go
we
ahead.
just touch quickly on Alek Manoah is throwing to live batters today,
Yes,
and
absolutely.
is
Big
if
Puma.
that goes well, in line for a rehab start next week.
Hmm.
So, and then according to Keegan Matheson, a spring training style ramp up
Yeah.
from there.
So
So,
he could be ready to pitch in the big leagues come early August, I would think.
yeah, that I would say early August is the reasonable timeline, barring setbacks,
Hmm.
to see him back. And I really hope that that is not a factor in how much we spend at the trade deadline. Like, I just don't want Ross Atkins to be like, oh, Alek Manoah is our secret weapon,
Yeah.
the card up our sleeve. We're getting a free sub 3 ERA pitcher, and we have to give up nothing to get it. Like
Yeah.
that feels risky. I do think he'll pitch for us this year. Uh Sandy Alcantara won a Cy Young, and look what he's doing this year, right? So the
And listen,
expectation, you just plug him back in after a Tommy John and be like, okay, we got him.
I'm all for feel good stories of guys coming
Yeah,
back and doing major damage. Look at what Marcus Stroman did for this team in
totally.
2015 when he missed most of the season with lower body problems and then came back and was our star in the postseason. But betting on it, not really what I want to see happen.
Yeah,
So,
there you
good
go.
little update there. All right, everybody. Thank you so much. Baseball Town this Thursday in Toronto. We've got JD Bunkus. We've got Baseball Jen. We've got Tom Henry, comedian actor, on our panel. We've got an extended audience question period. Get your tickets in the description. The coupon code to save $5 is baseball. So your tickets are $20 instead of 25. Hopefully we see you all there on Thursday. It's a super fun gathering for Blue Jays fans, especially when they're the best team in the American League East right now, atop that division. All right, everybody. Also, if you are on the East Coast, would love to see you out. I got Blue Jays trivia at the Pint on Monday, the 14th, Baseball Town at Halifax Live on the 16th. And then I'm headlining the comedy club there, Halifax Live, the 18 and 19. Do not just look up Belford and comedy clubs. Do not go see my sister on that weekend. You come see me. All right, everybody. We'll see you Friday. Cheers.